Okay, today's topic is primarily how do you go from being an employee to an entrepreneur? And we're going to go through very small definitions, but a lot of focus is around how do I work that way inside a company, right? I joined a new role, or maybe I've been in the role for about a year and a half as a data engineer or an analyst. How do I really make a difference or make the switch between the employee to an entrepreneurial mindset? That's really what the focus is today. And why is this discussion important? So I have 4 examples in here, and let's make it interactive. Let me know what you think that kind of comes up to your mind right away. Right? So these are all real resumes of people in the data field. So that is resume 1 that you're seeing, a whole bunch of AWS related items and SQL Server and all of those things. But any feedback? What are your instant thoughts when you see something like this?
I would say they know a lot of tools.
Okay. Yes, they're in the weeds. Okay, let's look at resume 2 example. Yeah.
You're a practitioner.
Yep, a lot more details about migration, code, technology type of things, right? So let's keep going. Third one, this is from an architect resume, right? Again, you see a whole lot of technologies kind of popping up. This one is my all-time best. This, I took it from a 12-page resume, okay? Supposedly a senior architect. But this, I had 2 pages of certifications and logos like this. So where I'm getting to is there's a whole lot of people we have in the market with just this, right? You can really take the name of the people from this resume, put somebody else's, it'll look the same, right? So far, you guys with me? How are we going to differentiate ourselves as we go through this process, right? So today's topic is, even though we are talking as part of the Dharma initiative, there's nothing about data analytics, data science, not even AI. I know there are some shockers here. Are you not going to talk about AI? No. Right? So the focus is on you and your work primarily. And the key thing to understand is, as we go into this, is leadership is very different from expertise. Right? The entry point can be expertise, but we cannot stay there forever. Right? That is why we often come across nothing right or wrong. Some people might want to be in a coding perspective still doing that. Right? They have a passion for that to see things happen. But even with the coding activity, are you operating at an elevated level, at a leadership level? That's really the question, right? So data is only an enabler. I don't have to tell any of you, right? But why are we doing the work? We do it because we want to drive some change, some level of transformation, and all of those things. A lot of companies talk about innovation, right? But for innovation to happen, it's not enough for us to understand either AWS or SQL Server and what we can do with it, but what results can it really create for the company overall. And for that, we need to start working with an entrepreneurship mindset, right? So what is an entrepreneur? We'll get into the details. But the last line, employees get paid, entrepreneurs get promoted and get paid more. So there's, if you have not thought about it this way, I would suggest start looking at it, right? And none of what we're going to talk today is a secret or anything. The information is all there, always. You're probably working in your current role in that capacity today, right? But it is, how do we consistently do over an entire career? It doesn't matter who my manager is today. It doesn't matter which company I'm working for today. What's the mindset that I bring to my work, right, to drive those type of changes? That's really where we are going to be digging in a little bit. And from talking to people, so a part of what I do is data analytics and all those things on the consulting side, but I also talk to a lot of middle level and senior level leaders to help with their career growth. The problem where many people easily get stuck up is in those 6 things, right? There's a lot of advice out there. Okay, go in with a good attitude, have the right mindset, bring empathy into what you do to the people, right, and your teams. Be always learning, do the hard work. That's all fine. The problem is what happens below this. How do I realistically do it? This is all top level stuff, but how do I really do it as a practice through my jobs? And that's really what we're going to do. Contrary to a very popular statement, say no often, right? We're starting with say no less often. And I want you to remember this, because this statement throughout today's conversation, because everything we're going to be doing or talking through is connected to this one statement. And we'll revisit this, what it means, right? So we got 90 minutes. 60 minutes was supposed to be discussion and 30 minutes questions. Given the forum here and the people online, I would like to see if we can do it, keep it more interactive, which means bring your questions, right? When you see something, if you want to ask something, or even if you want to share something from your own experiences, right? So participate, right? And then the goal of today's conversation is just a lot of meetings happen like this, right? 1 hour we sit, listen, and network, and then leave. But I'm really trying to see that one reason why I took the first lot, even though I'm kind of going in as a test specimen here, is because data, but we get so busy once the year starts, right? This is about our own careers, how we are going to make raise our level of performance in organizations. Do it first thing in the year, beginning of the year. It helps you plan for the rest of the year, right? So take what you can from here. If you have other questions and stuff, there are contact information later on. Just feel free to approach with your questions. But plan where you're going to be next February, same day. If you do work like an entrepreneur, what's that going to do to your career? All right. So 3 main themes, right? One is the book itself. I kept this section light, but if there is anybody here who's thinking about writing a book in your future, or if you want to have some specific questions, right, we can dive into that as we go through it. The second section is probably the most heaviest in this entire thing, the entrepreneurship foundations. And a lot of what we're going to be talking is built over the entire book, right? It's not 1 or 2 concepts, it's more broader concepts, which means it's easier for you to work through these and then dive into the book if you want. And then the third one is, I want to spend some time on what does it mean, right? Maybe even look at real scenarios. If you have any questions, okay, this is my current situation. What does it mean if I work this way? Where do I see challenges, right? Let's have a very interactive discussion in the third section. That is the idea. But however, I said this is going to be interactive, so a few questions for you, right? And there's no right or wrong answer. Just think what comes to your mind and let me know on this one, right? It's organized based on this way because career is instantly we navigate and think that we're talking about a job, right? But it's a longer term duration. And then the second segment is leadership, and the third one is life. So what does career growth or success mean to you? Like when somebody asks you, what comes to your mind right away? Anybody?
Accountability.
Okay. Good. Accountability.
Money.
Money. Very good. Yes. We cannot forget that. Anybody else on the line? Meeting? Learning new skills. Excellent point. Okay. Let's move to leadership, right? And the questions are worded in such a way that one is from a standpoint of perception. What others think of my leadership? The second part of it is self-reflection. What do I think of my own leadership? How often do we stop and ask, right? Sometimes we are forced to make decisions and all those things, but how often are we consciously making decisions, looking at the impact of our decisions on other areas of the business, other people, and other divisions and all of those things, right? You don't have to answer it, but these are points that it helps if you contemplate a lot more so that you're not writing a line of code anymore. You know, if I don't ask that small question about why is this field empty, right? If you really want to tie to data, right? The quality of a field could impact somewhere else, which is super critical, but we're not thinking in those terms. That's the whole point. Right? The discussion is about how do we take our work and link it to the top level work that's happening. And then the third one is life, right? Because work is not just what we do for the company. Some of you might want to do volunteering. Some of you might want to build a product. Some of you might want to do something on the social side, right? Connecting people or building a platform. Where do you want to take it? And how what you're doing now can be a pathway to reach that next level is really what it is. So when I started writing the book, by the way, any questions? Anybody want to, any clarification, bring up a point? Okay. So when I started writing the book, that's the first time I really looked at it from a simple math, right? Okay, 24 hours in a day, 3 parts, sleep is definitely given. All the experts are saying you need 8 hours of sleep, give or take, right? The second part is spending time with family, going for walks, spending time with kids, or taking the dog for a walk, whatever that scenario is. The third aspect is work. So take that, and roughly some people join the workforce much earlier when they are about 18 years of age. Some of them are at around 21, 22, depending on when you get in. And when you get out, right, 58, 60, 63, whatever that time period is, start working this way. If your lifespan is 75, 42 years is active working life, maximum, right? And depending on how many hours you put in and all those things, it's really 10 to 14 years in our entire life we're working. Whether we give that importance or not, we don't have to spend the time miserably complaining about things that we have no control about, right? Or giving away opportunities that were fantastic, and just because somebody messed up our day or months, that's really the conversation here, right? If your work is so important, what would you do in spite of the issues that crop up? So the question each of us have to ask ourselves is, am I doing my work on my terms or on somebody else's terms? Now, I know some of you would say, Prakash, my manager expects me to be at my desk at 8 o'clock and I have to stay here till 5. How much control do I have working? We're not talking about clocking in and clocking out time, but what you work on, right? And that, I can tell you from my own practice and the people I've advised and kind of grown over the years, that is easy. Nobody is going to tell you that you exactly have to do the way I'm telling you, right? Even if your way is better and it's going to bring results, nobody is going to tell you that, right? And if that person says it's time for you to find a better job, right, or a better manager. And we'll talk about how you navigate through some of those situations. It's there inside the book as well. How do you manage turbulence? How do you manage unexpected shifts within your organization? Right? It happens all the time. There's no one time in anybody's work life where things are not changing. Things are constantly in a flux. How do we, as individuals, manage that change, and how do we respond to it, not just react? Okay? So the current state of employee statistics, right? And I just picked 3 major angles which most companies measure. It's about your experience and engagement from the employees, right? Be it remote or on-site employees. And to what level are we really empowering them? That's the kind of a question, right? These 3 things come up from companies to company. There's a lot of money spent on by various companies to actually put programs in place, or even find where we are doing right, where we are not doing as much as we should be doing, how we can kind of build it, right? So with that said, our entire coverage of activities at work falls in these 4 categories that I have there, right? Let's start from the top. The market fluctuations. Do we have any control over it? Zero control, right? And it's going to shift all the time. Somebody does something 8,000 miles away, it can hurt the way our market is and the job opportunities and the economy, and all those things are going to happen. The second stage, the company level shifts. Depending on how high you are in the company, you may have a direct impact, or you may be the one starting the change itself, right? But for the rest of the people within the company, there's not much you're going to be able to do, right? Let's say you're in a very large global company, 300,000 people, some management change happens somewhere. It can potentially affect your work, the projects you're working, the funding that you have for those projects, but you have no control over it, right? Unless you're in an influential capacity. And what about your relationships with your managers and peers, or what they do? Some of them take a liking towards you. Some of them, you have no clue why they don't like you. They don't like you, right? But how often people, I mean, I'm giving you real examples, right? When I talk to folks, there are situations where they feel helpless. And then the whole point of this discussion is no, it's not. You are feeling helpless because of how you're reacting the situation. Pause, assess the situation, and respond it more intelligently. That's the shift really from I'm operating from an employee to operating as an entrepreneur, because at the end of the day, what the final level, which is the kind of the foundation as you talk about it, what am I learning? What type of attitude am I bringing to the process, right? What type of results am I creating? You continue to learn, continue to excel at what you do. At some point, even if your current company do not take note of your efforts, somebody else in the market will do. Or you continue to work on the same lines, you may find partners who you can work with, build a great product. Right? That's critical, and that is why that foundational layer is absolute must, that you take ownership of it and control, right? So in a nutshell, what can I control, what can I manage, and how do I go up? That's all, right? The room is always full. Whether you're sitting in a remote situation or not, you are always in a situation where you're talking to other people. There are too many people involved in the mix making decisions. If we try to react in an aggressive way for every decision or get overly worked up, right? How is it going to affect me? There's no end to it. We'll be in the reactive mode. So the main thing is, do not give away your personal power, right? We all have that. Whether you're a developer, whether you're an architect, whether you're a designer, there's a lot of value we bring to the table, right? How do we make sure that value helps the organization grow is easier to follow rather than trying to convince everybody else or react to everybody else's situation in this process. And the reason I'm saying is be selfish about it, because it's your future. It's your work in the world. You may learn something here, but you may build a product that's going to change the lives of 100,000 people outside, right? Just giving up now. So this is one situation where I have to take a little bit of a digging in, right? So I had a situation when somebody came up to one of our coaching calls, and his thing was, it's gotten to a point where I cannot stay here anymore, right? This is the complaint. So I asked him, okay, what happened? We had an organizational change, and this new manager kind of came in and stuff. I have to find a new job. So forget about the organization change, forget about your new manager and who he's bringing in and stuff. What are you doing on your day-to-day job, right? Oh, I love it. Okay, are you learning? Yes, absolutely. What part of that are you actually liking it? So when we started digging, what that person was doing, he was actually loving it. He thought he was learning a whole lot. This is where directionally the industry is going to go. The position offered a lot more capability to work with other people within the business to actually do stuff, real cutting edge stuff, right? So I went back to the question, okay, now what's your problem, right? So you're learning a whole lot, you're progressing as an individual, and just because somebody else came into a role, you're just going to throw away that. There's no guarantee you won't find somebody like that in another role, right? The door is always there. You can kick it or go out the door. That option is always there. But don't do it when you don't understand what your current role is giving you. And it's not just money. Too often it's easier to measure. I get paid, or maybe you were expecting $10,000 hike and you only got 4,000. There are a lot of other dynamics involved. But when we switch what we use, the currency we use to measure, money is a really bad metric all the time. Because if you take into account what else am I getting, right? Money becomes important, but if you understand the career trajectory, for 15 years, 20 years, you may not see. The increases are always in percentages. I mean, whoever has made it to real higher levels, they know this, right? I stayed at about 150, 200, it went to 250 and stuff, and suddenly when you're around the 300 level, you get a great opportunity, which is talking about $750,000, $800,000. Your patience paid off, right? So this is not just about learning technology. This is about how do I operate in an ecosystem where I'm being a consistent sponge for information, and in the process, you're improving your inner strength. That's all it is. You get to work with people who are great collaborators. You also get to work with people who are not so great, and how do I manage through that process? So hold on to your personal power. That's absolutely critical. So my journey, we have two divisions, as you can see. Consulting is where I do more of the project work, and we call it consulting because a lot of us came out of corporate roles after many, many years, and now we are in consulting, so in more leader-doer roles. So it gives us the ability to talk to the CEO and your architects at the same time. Like, Datapreneurs is my kind of what I like to call as a COVID baby, because I really thought, okay, who's going to give me money for what my advice, especially career-related and stuff. So when COVID happened, or when we were actually with one of the largest aviation firms, I was at their headquarters in Chicago 3 days before, the first week of March 2020, and for expansion discussions, right? So I come back to Columbus, 2 days later I get a call, hey Prakash, we need to put 1% from your team on hold. And okay, what's driving? No, we're reevaluating all of our current spend and projects in light of all this COVID things, news coming up. Then I said, okay, if that is the case, then just keep the person there, because it's harder for you to roll out and then build it in. I'm okay. Maybe a week or two, just keep the person in. 2 days later, I get another call and says, we have to lay off your entire team. Our team was not that very big, it was just 4 or 5 people. And that's just the way we work. We work from anywhere between 1 to 10 people. That's how we don't go after very big projects. And the interesting thing was, 2 weeks later, the person who we were supporting, he gave a call again. This time, it was not to tell me any news. This time was to ask advice. Like, you see how fast things changed, right? So, but that's the story, right? So when that person approached me for advice, okay, maybe there is an opportunity, because we were in retail, manufacturing, aviation, and one other retail related thing. So all 4 or 5 projects came down at the same time. So what do? I really went back to start writing the book at the same time, which was on the back burner, and then started to see, okay, can coaching become an option, coaching, mentoring, advisory? So that's the whole thing. So, but it really started work life on the manufacturing side, making automotives, truck manufacturing, and we did military trucks and all those things. Then what brought me here was from a master's degree, and it was very rare coincidence. One of the people who was a graduate assistant at a department which was doing analytics for the university president's office got admission into another college at the University of Michigan. So the position became vacant. My roommate was working in that. He said, hey Prakash, would you want to come in? I said, yeah, why not? Right? Before that, for the 4 months, I was literally cooking at an Asian jump cuisine inside of the. So that's what really got in with the Cognos and stuff, and then it never stopped, stayed through the data side. Then, as you can see, JP Morgan, I was at GE Healthcare for a while, then JP Morgan and Santander. So in 2017, really, I was meeting up with a former manager of mine at that time, and he was asking, you know what, it would really help if I have someone like with your chops to come and help me get, and the head of compliance here. So I was always thinking about starting going on my own, and I said, okay, I may be interested. Okay, when can you start? Oh, hold on, I don't even have a company. I don't have anything. So that's what started in 2017. I'm sure many of you who are in the companies probably decided this same way. So 2023, it's more consulting. We're expanding a lot more, bringing in new people into the thing. So going into the first section today, any questions so far? Anything that needs a little more clarity, because we'll pick up speed here, and the second section is where I want to spend a lot more time as we go through. How are we doing on time?
It is
20?
1800, 6 o'clock.
Thanks. All right, we need to speed up that. Okay, so the book was going to be a blog post initially, right? Early 2011, I met with one of the senior leaders at Chase at that time, and he joined the bank right out of his college, right? After like 22 years, he had grown at very high levels within the company. And so I met with him to say, okay, I've been on the technology side. I'm very interested in moving to the business. What advice would you have for me? And his thing is, Prakash, let me give you what my mentor gave me, right? Take your entire career as a 3-year rule. And the 3-year rule is very, very simple, right? The first year, when you go in, learn as much as you can about the role. Not just the role, about the division, about the functions, and how it actually interfaces with the rest of the company, right? What you guys are doing, what you're not doing, what you're supposed to be doing. And then the second year, do it as best as you can, right? Meaning connect to people, dig yourself into projects, expand your influence and delivery and visibility and all those things. And then third year, start looking for your next. So I said, okay, John, I think 1 and 2 I've done a little bit fairly throughout my life so far, but the third one is news. I've never approached my career that way. I never saw it as a third year and then I need to jump. But why is it 1 entire year for me to move out? His answer was, you'll be surprised when you start trying. Sometimes for you to find the right position, it'll take an entire year, right? So I had this conversation in February. I was in my new role end of November. So as it turned out, right? So since then I had implemented over a period of time, but this was the blog post, original idea came in, but once I started writing or putting the thing, we ended up with 3 parts to it, right? So if you see the book, it's organized into 3 things about mobility, internal mobility, right? Why it matters and why we need to take it a little more seriously. And the second thing is, how are we actually going to plan and bring it not just as a knee-jerk reaction I'll do once in every 5 years, but as a way of working through the process. And then the third one is, how do you really elevate the game, right? If you're doing coding, if you're doing an architect job, or if you're doing a manager's job, how do you make those type of connections, plan it so that you can really become data leader at different levels? That's the idea. All right, so writing a book is hard depending on how you write it. I'm not talking about ChatGPT book, right? If you write from scratch, there are so many things that you can do, so many directions that somebody can take, right? So I just added a couple of slides to see if anybody is thinking about writing a book, to see what went into the process, right? The first part of the writing, about 30,000 words, was fairly easy. My entire family was in India at that time, so I was stuck here alone. Over a period of 6 weeks, I wrote about 30,000 words. But then there comes a kind of a pause, right? So other things happen within the company or your work and stuff, put it in the back burner, and then you revisit. So when COVID happened, by that time I had already done 3 or 4 attempts. It never got anywhere, right? I never published the book. So, but school was completely, it's learn from home type of a scenario. So my younger kid, the one they've grown up now, this is more of a recent picture, but he was like, okay, I'm going to come in and check with you every day how many words you've written. You're doing it, right? I don't have any excuse now. I cannot go out, and he is here all the time. So it really happened, right? So what was the original name of the book, right? So when we were launching it, they did a trivia and a video kind of recording, right? So the name of the book was Move It, because conceptually I was going to write about those 3 things, year 1, 2, 3, and move. But as I started writing, the focus was more on, okay, this is a much more of a possibility than just having someone move. So we went with the Intrapreneur kind of an approach, right? When did I start writing the book? Really 2014, right? And the book was launched in 2021. So you can see how many times it got deprioritized and then kind of came up. So the approach that helped complete the manuscript, that's what I was talking, is Pomodoro, if any of you have used. It's very effective. You pretty much cut all distractions and tell yourself, I mean, there are 15 minutes. I prefer the 25-minute and the 45-minute Pomodoros, right? It makes it a lot more easier when we do that. And just do that. No distractions. Nobody comes in. You're only writing it or working on anything else, right? And then how can you help spread the message? If people who are reading it go to Amazon or even talk about it, right? You can 2 or 3 people are in the career at same stage in your careers. How can you operate within the company as entrepreneurs? It really comes kind of to that. So from idea to book launch, 4 major segments, and ideation and writing. The second one is the editing. Structuring and editing is a big deal because the first time when I met, I wanted to get it out. It was stuck at 45,000 words and I thought it was already big. And I met with the developmental editor and he goes, "This is great. The problem is you don't have any stories in here." Right? I said, what do you mean? Business book. I'm not going to be putting stories or anything, and I don't even know how to write stories. You know? So no. The reason you keep people moving from one concept to the other happens when you start sharing stories, personal stories, what happened and things. It's easier to connect, it's easier to retain, and it can help them in the long run rather than just reading here are 10 ways by which you can change your career or whatever it is, right? So we really got back to work, ended up at 92,000 words. It is a bigger book, but there are segments depending on how people want to read. Just yesterday, somebody from Blacklick, Ohio, he pinged me in December, said I started reading the book, and then yesterday he messaged, "I am done, can I come over and I would like to meet you for lunch or something." And he recalled this particular statement. I even forgot. And in the book, somewhere you're saying you're not good at telling stories, but that was the one thing I was thinking all through the book, that this is so resonating, and kind of, I said, okay, fine, let's meet. Right? So the third part is design and production and setup and marketing. It's whole different things. So when people think it's just writing, no, you need an entire army of people, right, including family support, which I had immensely from my wife and kids and other friend circles, but also a whole lot of experts through the process. The book design and everything, final preparation was done by a team of experts from Ukraine, right? This is pre-war scenario, but they did a fantastic job, right? The whole thing happened just through emails, and we were able to get it done. All right. Entrepreneurship foundations. How do I really go from an employee to an entrepreneur, right? So what's the major difference? We all know what an entrepreneur is, right? It's somebody gets an idea to launch a product or come up with a service. You gather the initial funding if it is required, or you start working it. If it is coding it, then prove the proof of concept, get the right team in, get the funding if it's needed, and start marketing, getting clients, right? Not very different. Entrepreneurship is pretty much the same. Only thing is we don't attempt when we are in the company because we are expecting, let my manager tell me what to do. That is very bad for business. And you may say, okay, that's not my job. It's very bad for your career. How about now, right? So don't wait for the manager or your leadership or somebody else to think about ideas of how things can improve. It's each and everybody's job who's in different roles, because you are there doing it day in and day out. Who else is more qualified to do that other than you, right? So think of this way, you are really the captain of your career ship. And if that is the case, how big of a possibility do you want to chase? It's easy to say, okay, I want bigger money. But we need to understand how the valuation of your talents and what you bring to the table is actually happening from the company side. Right? Once you understand, once we are able to connect the dots, we are in a position to create our own value cycle. That's fundamentally what entrepreneurship is. So let's look at what makes the possibility equation. Okay, 6 different things, and some of this we do right, some of this we don't. It's not evident that at the outset, right? When you look at it, opportunities, yes, what comes to you at the high level, it is. But what about the hidden potential? You may be working on something. What are what questions are not being asked? What other connections are we not exploring during that brainstorming session or that ideation process, right? It's easy to say, okay, we've got a half an hour, let's just discuss this and go out. But when considering the broader thing, always think global, but you can always focus in a lower localized way. That's easy. Same thing goes with challenges, right? What challenges do I have? You may have it in front of you right away, but what are the hidden risks in the process? Are we thinking through that approach? Comes to capabilities and gaps. I may know what I know, but I know I have to learn this. ChatGPT, this new thing came out, or Databricks launched the new capability, their liquid SQL, right? Those are all visible things. It hits the news and you know it, and if you're working on Databricks, you want to work on it, that's fine. But what are we not looking at within our own gaps and things, right? So do that, and it's a consistent process. It's not just I do this once in the beginning of the year, or I'm going to do it only my review cycle comes in. We are building a process where you're reviewing your own performance and where you stand on a continuous basis, right? And then the team and the talent. Our team is much, much more than just the team set of people who are reporting to us or working with us, right? Who else, when I have a problem or when I have a doubt about a question, can I talk to this person in FP&A, right, or in the risk organization or in marketing to understand what they think about it? Have those conversations. There's no, the days of very strict hierarchy that you have to route through every email, copy me in this, and then it goes to the other department. Those are all gone. Like 90% of the organizations, the mindset has come in. So it's a lot more easier to operate as an entrepreneur than thinking with a very fixed approach, right? And then the leadership, support of the people in the leadership is absolutely critical. If you ask me, this is the easiest thing for you to grow as an entrepreneur. People are not leveraging this, right? It doesn't matter which level. You can, if you have a message, right message, if you've done your homework about the possibility of that, it is easy to go up the chain and talk to your SVP or managing director and things, put it in, right? You have to go in with some amount of homework and thought process in. What do you think about it? Or this is what I have to, rather than what would you like me to work? He's going to push you down to the manager. Okay, that's why your manager is there. Go, right? So in that instant, you became from an entrepreneur down to an employee. So do your preparation, look at the opportunities. If you do that 1 to 5, then you can approach your leadership accordingly. And then last one is market and competition. What's happening in the market today, right? What fluctuations are happening? What can I think based on this event that is happening? What can I look forward to? So this is actually the place where I started kind of working at Ashok Leyland, right? So I go into this right out of college. They had a GET program, graduate engineering training, and sometimes it's not what you think. Sometimes you have to have the right people to take you up. So in this case, my manager at that time, he said, Prakash, you have something that we don't have here now, which is fresh eyes, right? Whatever you see, it is totally new. We have been doing this for the last many years. It will look, we kind of gloss away, right? We don't see the problems right in front of us. But I can tell you one area where we desperately need help is a greater level of visibility into what's happening. Why are our defects kind of going up? What could be avoided, right? How can we keep the consumables cost low? How can we plan better for our shifts and people kind of coming in? All these things it's related to data, it's related to process and all those things. For manufacturing or manning the shifts, I have so many people. That's fine. They've done it over the last few years. While you may be eager to run a shift by yourself, which was one of my goals going in from college, I'm going to run a shift and make sure that we are able to produce for the full capacity. That, as a production engineer, that was my thing. But he pointed me in a very different angle that I was not even prepared for. So, which means you're getting into a new area, start learning about pretty much everything, right? How things work, how things are not working, where are we losing it, why is quality not writing it, this thing, right, or approving, why do we have this many scrap rejections going on? So everything became a question. There was no other escape. You just got to do, because that became your number one work right out of college. So I would say the opportunity was there, just pick it up and kind of go with it, right? So Career levels, when you look at focus, I mean, a lot of people are pretty much senior level folks here, but if you have anyone registered and they want to see the video later on, and I'm thinking, right, there are 4 major levels, right? The doer level capability is what you bring to the table. If some of the resumes we saw earlier, right, they were middle level and senior level, but I'm saying if you're a doer, if you have someone who's an AWS data engineer, I want to make sure that the person knows what they're capable of doing data engineering jobs, build pipelines. That's my fundamental requirement out of that person. So it's a capable doer. As you go to the next stage, if you're promoting somebody, I want to make sure they are reliable as a manager, right? I am giving you responsibility for 15 people or 25 people, whatever that size is. Can you manage their time, their work, make sure they are producing quality work, make sure that they can come to you, knowingly you will support them and all those things. Are you reliable as a manager? The third level as you go in, it's more on the leadership thing. Are you trustable? Okay, now you're really getting into things as I don't care about your AWS skills. You might have done it 10 years ago, right? I don't care about your ability to manage a group of people. You already have people under you who are managing the teams and doing day-to-day stuff. What I want is a leader who I can trust to have my back, make sure they speak up, make sure they give me the warning signs when I actually need them, right? Don't say yes to everything that I say. So that trust factor becomes the critical thing. And then at the last level, which is once you pass through all these things, there is no job description. You're pretty much creating your job description, right? It is with everything that is having, that is why it's important to look across what's happening within the company, market and all those things, because now you're acting as a visionary. And I call it as responsible visionary. This is where things can go really wrong if you're not responsible, right? So now the question is, okay, we can go up this ladder, become a trustable leader, and then I want to do something else like marketing. For example, I might not have had enough experience in the marketing side, right? So I am going to be starting at not as a capable doer, but I might start as a manager, but still learn the ropes. The question is, it's not, am I taking a step down? Think of it as you're learning something new. You're basically adding to your toolbox. When you are doing more technology stuff, now you know marketing also. Same thing with risk, same thing with finance. You're pretty much rounding your skill sets as you kind of go through this thing. Any questions so far? People on the phone or Zoom?
Hey, I don't have a question, but well, I guess it's a question, but more on the leadership side. Like, how do you keep people, or what's your idea about keeping people in that creative state and bringing ideas to you and challenging you for the organization? It seems like they come in and they might be real excited, and then they get complacent and just do their day-to-day.
Yes. So it depends on how well of an environment we create as leaders for the people coming in. First few weeks, enthusiasm is going to be high for anybody, right? From a developer to an architect to a manager or something, they're going to roll up their sleeves. New one, they just got their new email and they're pumped up to start talking with their team members and all those things. But the complacence sets in because they are not being challenged enough, okay? And I would say whenever I manage larger teams, I always tell them, okay, I'm going to load you up. You have to tell me when it's too much, right? It doesn't matter if you break, but I want you to know, assess the right way and tell me if it's too much. That's fine, right? It is not a failure on me or it's not a failure on you. What we are trying to figure out is what can be done in a better way, automated, more efficient and stuff in the process. If you have so much time, I think there's a popular saying, right? If I give you 1 month to do something, you will take a month. If I give you 3 days to do something, you will take 3 days, right? So it's about creating a culture of entrepreneurship. So it's not, the topics, anything that we are talking today is not just for people in the lower levels or who are trying to go up the career. It is for very senior level people in terms of how do I prepare a team of entrepreneurs? If you want to truly innovate the company, right? What are my opportunities? How do I make sure my entire team thinks that way, that they are going to challenge existing status quo, right? They're not just going to take orders, but they all come with enough brain power and creativity and it's their job to keep it alive. That's the main thing. Did that answer the question, Terry?
Helpful. Thank you.
So not a long time back, I got a call from one of the guys. He said, hey, I browsed through your websites. And I go, okay, and his next thing was, and I don't know what you do. So I said, okay, tell me the context. I do very many things. I have to know in what context you were researching me and what you would like to talk, right? It's no different. After you're in your line of work over 20, 25 years, there is so much that each of you can do, right? Some of those things you will just do a fantastic job, right, when you come out of sleep. Some of the things may take some time. Some you're not sure, you're still not comfortable, or you don't like it, right? Whatever it is, but that's the extremes we all kind of play with. But when that is the scenario, it's like this, right? You can, if I ask you what it is, you are saying, okay, 3 different colors, neatly arranged, separated. The problem is when you're within a company, this is what people see, right? Because you've done so many things. You might have worked in finance, you might have worked in risk, all those things. And it's fairly difficult to say, okay, what is your expertise, unless I know really what you've worked in and stuff. So as managers, this is something which I've always done. Whenever I go new into a role, I ask for the resumes of people, not just LinkedIn or just talk to you for 15 minutes. I want to have the resumes of you, pretty much my team and the team below. Main reason is I want to look at your trajectory. What have you moved through, right, over the period of years and stuff, and really where are your skill sets, so that we can use you in other areas rather than saying, okay, this person is a data engineer or this person is an architect and they'll just do architecture forever. Our problems don't come such neatly segmented, right? Our problems and opportunities are very bundled like this. But so I put this in, I don't know how clear it is for people on the screen. We have so many of those items, skill sets, specializations, things that we can do well, things that we can do okay, what we don't like, and all those things, right? At the end of the day, it comes down to how do we merge all these things together to create a beautiful output, right? And what's happening is, I joined. It's almost sad to see very highly talented people outsource their career to the company and managers. I'm dependent on you to shape my career. No. It's the other way. You have to see where the opportunity is and show and what you can grow into your career. That's more easy because you know yourself better. How do you expect your manager to know yourself better, right? So that's the going in thing here. And every customer has a different needs. Same way every manager, every executive within the company may have a bigger opportunity that you can actually step in and help as we go through the process. So are you a connector? Are you good at networking? Are you good at problem solving, right? Are you good at analysis where there's no fixed stuff, right? I'm just figuring out things. All those things, find your superpowers. And then you carve out, okay, what's my leverage? What moves me? Some things I don't even like, even though I'm good at it. I did it 5 years ago, but I hated it, right? So I don't want to do it. So find it. Only you can do that, not your manager, not your HR department, not your training department. So, time check. Sorry.
It's 20.
20. Okay. 15 foundational concepts of entrepreneurship. This one came out, I think the date was 2013. I took this from Jamie Dimon's post on LinkedIn where he shared hallmarks of a leader, right? And if you have not come across this, I would strongly suggest go read it. One of the most fantastic pieces of thing, because it summarizes very clearly all the top qualities that will help you go up in your leadership journey, right? But what caught my eyes is just this, and the first few lines summarizes it, right? It's actually an honor and a privilege. It's not because somebody is giving me a title, do it. When you accept the title, you are basically taking responsibility for a whole lot of people. That's what it means, right? So with that mindset, it is important to come in with the right approach, openness, connect with the things, and always looking for those next opportunity where we can move the needle here. That's the thing, right? So number one, we talked about the 3-year rule first, right? When you go in and if you're in a company of your own, that's fine for those of us on the business line. But if you're inside of a company, right? I know there are some from other firms here and people on the call as well. There's a great opportunity if you look at your work like this. You become a very valuable person within the company, and as I said, you're pretty much growing in your career. Anybody will take you in. How else can I do it? Right? It doesn't mean that you need to jump companies. There are other opportunities within. Think about role expansion. Today I'm doing this. Can I also do that? Other thing. I know many of us don't want our manager's job. That's a different thing. But what other things that are not getting done today that you can add to it, right? Move across LOBs, functions, and those things. So know the primary question and find answer. I'm not going to go into each of these, but I'll give you all a few seconds to read through. This is like one of the most foundational stuff, but I can share a story with this. So I have Arun at the back here. We've worked together for over 15 years now. In one of the discussions, very heated conversation, right? We had the meeting at morning around 11 o'clock, and then it was again scheduled at 3 o'clock. We didn't finish within the half an hour. Then we said, okay, you know what? Let's do a 4 to 5. The meeting went from 4 till 7:30 in the night, okay? And it was back and forth. We were trying to figure out, and at some point I got so frustrated. I said, hey, the only thing that is green on this is budget. I have never seen a situation like that, right? And what's the problem really? I don't think we are seeing it. And finally, the leader who was leading on the technology side, he opens up and says, Prakash, your folks have been on the technology side. Now they are on the business side. They know much more than our teams. They're running faster. This should have been the first message that came out, right? But as you start digging in, basically the connection between how does our company make money? How can we lose money, right? Opportunities, the risks, right? What else can we do? Where is the interconnectedness? Who else can I ask for the help? How do we structure it better so we meet our timelines that we gave to the senior leadership management? All of these things happened because somebody did not ask the fundamental questions, right? But it's beyond who was responsible. The message here is that there is an opportunity for us to find out what these are. And depending on how your company operates, it will be easy to find. Sometimes it's difficult, but make the effort to find it. That's really kind of a thing. So, say the corporate strategy, right? Some companies do a fantastic job sharing it, where we are, what we want to do over the next 3 years. 5-year plans are really not there anymore. If you ask me, right, there's nobody has the time or commitment to do it, and if they do it, it changes within the next 6 months, right? But directionally, what do we stand for? How do we want to grow our customer base? How do we want to bring new products into the thing? How are we going to extend the footprint? There are only 7 different ways any of these strategy documents work, and I didn't put it here, but it's primarily you want better utilization for your capital, right? Or make more revenue, contain the risk, mitigate or manage it better, grow the employees and the experience, enhance the customer footprint, and improve the impact to the society with whatever we are doing in the industry or in the areas that we are present and stuff. So not a whole lot. You can cut it in any whichever way it's there, right? But the key to find out is what is the priority below when I actually peel it 1-2 levels below that. Top level, every company has the same thing. We want to increase profitability. Yeah, fine. How are you going to do it, right? So ask the questions. Don't just stop at the top level because you won't get anything from it. Go down level 2 and 3, and then that becomes easier for you to see. So once you know that, here is where it gets interesting. You have to find out what is the link. Okay, the strategy is to make some process, make it faster. We are looking to make ourselves efficient. Very common thing, right? Now when you start digging, efficient in what areas? In what manner? Where are we lacking? Right? When you start finding out, you may be actually sitting on an opportunity that your skills and capabilities can make it, bridge that gap there. So find that, what it is. And in that process, what not to do. right? What to do, you can do a whole lot of things in that approach, but what not to do, it's not my responsibility. Very dumb thing to say, okay? Above my pay grade. We all used to hear this very often, but pay grade is basically, that means you are living in a very fixed thing that, okay, I'm getting only paid for this. You are an employee, that kind of going in mentality, right? My manager, peer, this person in the other department is responsible. Would you do certain things differently if you can grow much faster? You might have taken your manager 20 years, but with your career growth, you might reach there in 10 years and double the salary. Would you be interested? The problem is nobody comes and tells you that, because the way is not very straight. It's for you to figure out and do it, right? And then the last one is the previous manager or vendor did it. There is no value in talking about the past. That person is not there. You are the one holding it. What can you do in that process? 5, know the players. You want a shortcut towards faster growth, this is it. And it's basically comes down to asking or looking at information in a different way. Right? We very often know just our colleagues, the next team, and not much about who is consuming this information. Right? Maybe you're building some finance data or putting it out together and things. Some other director or their people in financial planning or capital markets is using it. But who? Do you know? Very often people don't know this, right? It's not, and then the answer, even worse, okay, the people who are doing the business requirements might know it. They collect what is needed, but you're the one delivering it. Don't you want to know how your data or analytics or machine learning stuff that you're producing is actually being used? What's coming down the pipeline? If I know that, then as an architect, I can actually go talk to the person and say, you know what, you have these changes coming down the pipeline, the current architecture is not going to support, so let's plan for that too, because you're telling me in 3 months that change is coming. Now I can take an attitude of it's not my job again, and 3 months later on, that'll give you job security, but it's your choice. Right? How are we going to know the players? And use your HR phone book. The other biggest advantages is new organizations are being created. People move roles. New teams are being formed. Whenever something new happens, remember that new money is getting pushed into that direction. When new money goes, new effort, focus is going to go, which means your leadership is more aligned because of this new department kind of coming in. There's a new strategy in place. If you want a job switch internally, that's the best place to do it. Go talk to the people there, or if you know the leader, have a conversation, what's happening? And then, oh, you know this, we need somebody with this background, come over. Internal mobility just happened. You don't have to wait for your HR to do it. Create your future yourself. Identify the WIFM for your stakeholders. Some people will tell you exactly what they want. There's no problem with that. The problem is the ones who don't speak what they want, right? It's almost like you're looking at, okay, what else could this person be wanting from this project, right? So, and it's not just for one, not just the sponsor, because the sponsor may say yes, and if they have like a very strong supporter, they rely, and that person doesn't buy into your idea, you're going to have a whole lot of resistance pushing your ideas through or implementing the project, right? So it becomes very critical to know who is there in your entire stakeholder pool, just not the visible ones, but even the ones who don't talk much in meetings, but then are actually whispering into the ears of the executive later on. Right? So, and it takes practice. You won't get it right. Even with practice, you won't get it right. That is okay. But these are things to think through as we go through, right? And learn at every opportunity. Find champions who are going to represent your thoughts and ideas and processes when you're not there in every meeting. Right? That you know what, I know this is headed in the right direction, that's fine. So you need champions across to get your work going. This is especially for people when you're joining in a new role. The honeymoon period, okay, I got 6 months. Nobody has 6 months today. That's really the reality, right? You take up a role at any level. The higher the role, recently I did a post on this as well. If you're in a very senior level role going in, you really own, or you inherit everything in that role or the situation and the conditions that come along with it, not on the first day when you join that job. You actually inherit everything when you say yes to the job, because the other person has checked out mentally, or they're probably gone on leave and somebody else is covering for them. Either ways, it's your responsibility when you say yes, I am taking this position, and when you accept the job, right? So there's no point in doing this blame game, thinking of honeymoon period, nothing. Just get to work, easier way. And the fastest thing is ask the questions that need to be asked. And this is not just for executives, right? Even for, if you want to go in, you're going into, let's say you got a job at a company, right? A new company, and because you knew somebody, you went there, interview was easy, you got in. You don't wait for your first day to go and find out what technology they're using, what it is, and stuff like that. There are people you can talk to. Go to LinkedIn, go to their jobs page. Every job is going to cite what type of technologies are there, what is marketing using, what is sales using, what is this thing. You're pretty much stitching the technology landscape of that company in no time by yourself. You can do all this before. It sets you up for a much faster traction within the company if growth is what people are after. All right, 8, the challenge versus opportunity. They're really parts of the same coin, or two sides of the coin, if you want to see it, right? It's not that we love opportunities and we kind of try to avoid challenge of any kind. So the general approach I use is find, and then you analyze, kind of a FAPS framework, right? Then you got to prioritize, because there could be many. Prioritization is a skill by itself. How am I going to pick the good ones that I must be worked right now versus that can wait? The last one, never forget, the sell and advertise. Everybody is busy. Even if you do a fantastic job, nobody is going to remember it, right? So it's your responsibility, not just saying I did. That's not the idea here, but how it is bringing value to the people within the organization. When you say that, when you socialize it, when you advertise it, the utilization starts going up. Adoption is more. When there is adoption, the work that your team did, there's a lot more visibility. It's easier to ask for more funding or get more exciting projects or expand the team. Everything becomes easy when your previous work becomes used across the company. So 9, resources and resourcefulness. Major difference, easy to grasp, easy to practice too. All it needs is a consistent approach to doing it, right? Resources are basically what you've been given. Here are 4 people, here is the money for it and stuff. That's the easy part. It comes with it. Oh, we don't have the budget. Stand up and say, can you create? Can you find the money? Can you find the people? Find the capacity. Are there areas where the part of that work should be offloaded to some other team, which may not be that busy, or right, they can do a better job than you, what your team is, right? Those are all questions to ask. How do I find the resources? How do I resources and still be more resourceful that we can burst through any challenges or stuff that comes through the process? So it's all about availability, find the right sponsors, find the right champions to network, pass your message. Find your catalyst. In terms of the career thing, this is probably something that can take you much, much faster. You find who can better utilize the work that you are doing and attach that to their career growth. Your career will grow much, much faster. And I have numerous examples for this. People who, this sometimes happens within your company, sometimes it happens outside. People you might have worked with them 5 years before, they liked your work, they thought you were a star, right? Very reliable, an amazing person, and then they go into a role. Just reach out on LinkedIn. Hey, I saw you're in a new role, what's going on? Catch up. And they may say, you know what, oh, this is what you did last 5 years? Fantastic, I exactly want this. Come over. 1, 2 levels above in title, compensation, everything moved, but they are taking you based on the version of you 5 years before. Only thing we need to make sure is that the experience we give them is not lower than that level, and it's in fact actually higher, because last 5 years I've learned numerous things. How else can I add value to it, right? So now you're really stepping into that trust thing, equation. Trust once earned has to be handled very, very carefully. Initiative. If you've followed this to this point, it is all about taking the step. Nobody's going to tell what it is. Sometimes even if you don't know all the details, sometimes even if you're not sure of all the information, right, what the thing is involved, take the step, find it during the process. It will unveil as you kind of go it. You might have to do some things differently. What you learned is not applicable in new situations. All those is fine, right? That's why I put it in there. You feel the fear, but still sign up big. Right? No point in thinking small and kind of going through. Connectedness, we talked about networks and staying in touch with people, reaching out to people who you don't know. It's a constant thing, right? It never stops, especially in today's world. If you're connected, you have much faster growth. There's no two ways about it. Timing. This is, if you saw the background change suddenly to green because there are 3 different things in here depending on what you have to do. The effect of what you do, your activities and actions will be much, much better if you understand the timing concept behind it, right? The first thing is about leverage. What you do and how you do it creates a lot more leverage, right? And if you're in a team scenario, it's not just you, what your team does. So let's say you go into a new job, maybe join as a VP of data or SVP or lead engineer. Just that same week when you joined, something major happened that your team should have caught and didn't do. What happened just now? You are a newcomer in there, but people are pissed off because something major happened. That's a major leverage erosion happening. So leverage is something, okay, you're joining in as a new person, I'm giving you a little bit or fixed amount of, think of it as a combination of what you can do, what you're allowed to do, the level of support you will get in that role, all those things, right? Pretty complex equation, but it is up to us to keep the leverage going. How do I consistently engage with people? How do I consistently add value through the process? How do I make sure my people within my team are doing what needs to be done or more at an elevated level? When leverage increases, you get a lot more support from senior management. You get a lot more funding that you need. And you may say, hey, to do this, I need 4 people. Yes. Or you might need 1 people. If your leverage is bad, even that 1 headcount might be said, no, you're not getting it. What's missing in this process? It's the leverage, right? So managing your leverage bank is, there's a bank at the start, as we talked about, and what causes leverage to shift? So many things. Something happens, suddenly the other department becomes the most important activity. Funds will be taken from you and moved there. You have no control over that leverage. It's part of the game. Let's kind of figure that out, right? So many of these things are there. Some of this you can control, some of this you cannot control in the process. And how to manage leverage shifts. We don't have much time to go into each of these details, but the recording will be shared, so feel free to go through it. Understand your job role cycle, right? I created this for people in data leadership roles, but it's pretty much for any leadership role, I think. But the sub-bullets are all more data-related items, right? You get into a role, you try to build some influence, come up with a business case, get the funding, start delivering. Then you're going to be looking at, okay, what else can I deliver based on that, right? And at some point, the company says, okay, you know what, it's not working, right? Either it gets eliminated or you get called from another competitor, where they want you to come and do something similar because you've had fantastic success in your current role, right? Or you want to go start your business or whatever it is. But the thing is, this cycle happens, we roll in and roll out as we go through it. Understand what needs to happen when we're good, right? And then I like this one because the Q4, this Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4, right? Quarters, so it's like we are in Q1 now. So be the company man. The reason I even thought of putting this figure is once my manager was, we were having a conversation and there was a fairly contentional topic. So the question was, do I bring it now or do I bring it later, right? So his thing was, no, be the company man. Don't do it now. Wait till January, we'll hit it because it's bonus cycle. You don't want to mess up the perception within the thing, and it's not as visible and risky and stuff that you need to bring it now, right? Or basically, we were wanting to challenge somebody else in another department, their assumptions and something, or the way they were approaching. So, but Q1, pursue opportunities. right? New budget has come in. This is the time when new projects are there. People are thinking, you're actually looking inside the company. What should I prioritize? Which one I should start? And Q2 is all about accelerating delivery. And Q3, demonstrate results, make the connections, drive adoption. It's like not just touting your horn. It is about making visible about what you did, so you can get the right level of bonus and stuff for your team members. If you're a leader, this is your responsibility, right? What happens is at the end of the year, when like somebody is more visible and successful in things, bonus can be taken away from your team and given to somebody else. You as a leader is responsible to make sure your team gets what they are due. So this what we're talking is reality. There's no, oh, I don't want to talk about the results we produced. Yes, you have to, and that's how the cycle kind of operates. Managing oneself after all this. So the one in gray is I sent out the early copy to some of the people who were engaged in the process and asked them, okay, what do you think, right? So one person from Australia, she read it and said, okay, sent me that email. I said, I get it, right? That you have to be learning, you have to be putting yourself up, making connections, trying to create value and all these things. But it also seems like a lot of work and kind of energy thing, right? How do I do this on an ongoing basis, like a second nature, right? Without having any kind of a burnout. So that's how that entire chapter on self-management kind of came in the book. Very important part of it. Because otherwise you will do this for a year or two and then completely burn down, and then it says, okay, I don't want to do it anymore, let me take a step down, and then complacency sets in, we'll never go out, right? So as you go up the ladder from a doer to a leader and a visionary, what is required is how am I keeping myself good through the process? How am I taking care of it? Good days will come, bad days will come. How are we managing the storm, right? There's no letting up. You will always have something to crib about, but you also have something to be happy about. Which one are we choosing? So the one on the left, the TFWA, so when my kids were really young and they were growing up, two boys, very close together, they used to have a lot of fights going on, right? They won't get along well, they'll be like best of buddies sometime, and then suddenly you go there and then within the next minute something will flare up. So TEFWA is something I came up with it and said, hey, started telling them, okay, only person you can control is yourself, right, or how you behave and stuff. And then gradually it morphed into this kind of a framework, TEFWA, right? Manage your TEFWA is what the thing, and it found its way to the book. I got a few people write to me about it in terms of that makes sense. It's each day I keep telling myself now it's an easy to remember thing, manage the TEFWA type of thing. So build your support system, practices, habits, right? Whatever works for you. Maybe it's family, maybe it's volunteering, maybe it's spending time or traveling. Make sure you keep yourself right so you can go after bigger challenges and opportunities, right? It's again, your work is over the long term. Managing is critical, and have fun in the process. Work-life balance. I think we are in probably the last one or two slides here. Any questions so far? Okay, so work-life balance is a topic which is talked of very often, right, in multiple forums and stuff. I'll tell you what works for me, and I know people who have adopted it as well, but your situation may or may not allow you to do it. I approach it as work-life integration, right? So the lines between Monday to Sunday is kind of gone, and it's not just because we are running a business now, it's even at work thing. Sometimes if I have to take off at like 2:30 or 3, cancel the meetings and then go out and then catch up on some work, this thing, right? Meetings, when you have to meet with other people, there's not much option. But with hybrid, with remote and stuff, we can really blend things. There are some days when family comes first, when your friend, neighbors come first, right? Just yesterday, someone texted me that suddenly one of their very close friends had to go into bypass, and she was there at a hospital taking care of it. I mean, life is a very fragile thread. Anything can happen anytime. So we try and draw very strict boundaries. It's not going to work, right? So try work-life integration if that is a possibility for you. Again, as I said, may work in your favor, or in your situation it may not be possible. But now is the only reality, right, as we kind of go through it. Any beginners on this call? Otherwise we'll skip this. Anybody just beginners is, I'm talking about like less than maybe 5 years experience. All right, okay. Yeah. So what does it, how do we tie all this to data, right? Dhamma, we got to talk this, otherwise Alan may not be happy. So how do we tie everything about the concepts around entrepreneurship and stuff in relation to that work that we all do from a data standpoint, right? And that is where the 5 value chains come up. For us to understand, so this is how the model, when I put it together, it is like the business and company kind of go hand in hand. We talked about what type of questions to ask, right? Where to look for opportunities and stuff. So identify the business and company view, build it, right? The financial and control view go hand in hand. Where are my risks? What should be controlled? Where are my compliance requirements? What type of finance stuff is there, right? Whether it is bringing visibility or containing cost and all those things. And the functional org view is all about who's moving, what gets done where within the organization, so we can do it much faster, get the right help, and even look at opportunities for ourselves when somebody moves into a new role and all of those things. Business and technology view, all of our kind of system of record for the data guides, right? Which application handles what within the system? What part of the business process is being handled where? The last one is really data and analytics. Unfortunately, what we do, we just go there directly, try to understand the repositories, tables and columns and things, and none of that work because we don't have the full picture, right? So go through 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we are in a position to actually do meaningful work when it comes to data analytics and all of those good stuff. So my question to all of you again, how are you looking at your career? Right? It's reflection, and it's not an hour thing. Go back, look at your career. Nothing is too late, right? In fact, before I came in today, somebody from Cincinnati was wanting to attend, and he said, hey, I wanted, some conflict came up. I have been in the data field for a very long time. I have a few more years to go. I would like to make sure that I can grow to what I can. LinkedIn message, moving, right? So it's not how long, what we have done. There is still opportunity. There is still things to do differently. That's the whole thing. And then what can you do? Start being an entrepreneur where you are. One of the early questions that came up, Prakash, I don't want to grow. I don't want bigger titles. I don't want bigger responsibility. I don't want to manage a team. How can I, as an individual, be an entrepreneur? Whether you have a team or not, it's possible for everybody to think differently about the way we work, right? And there are 3 parts to this whole thing. Us is the base, but think about the company, think about the peer levels and the thing. Play the game with no regrets. We'll make mistakes, we'll screw up, right? People may not like what you do, or people may like too much of what you do. All those things will happen. Take it as what it is. And remember the first slide which I had, say no less often. People started saying, you got to say no, say no, say no. But what they didn't qualify is to who. Many of us are saying no to ourselves, right? Before, you may have an idea. Should I go talk to my manager or not? You know what, maybe they won't like it. But when you have said no to yourself, there is no light for that idea. That's the starting point. Should I ask this person to ask for help? Maybe that colleague is busy. How do you know? Ask the question. If the colleague is busy, they're going to say, no, I'm actually busy and working 3 other things, right? So the next question, if it is very important for you and you know that colleague can help you, when can we meet? Do you think next week is possible? The first no is not a no really. It's no based on their first understanding of what it is, right? Very few people will say, I don't like to help you. Very, very rarely. I mean, that means something else is going on there, right? It is not us being inconsiderate of their time. We're trying to see, hey, if I get your ideas in this whole process, I think we may have a better opportunity to come up with a better idea, create something better, right? The earlier question that we had from Terry on, we will break the molds around what's stopping creativity or other problem solving. So ask the questions. Don't say what will happen, right? I mean, and this is something I still feel even with my team every day. It kind of comes up. Oh, what will that person think? Let that person tell you what he thinks. Why are you thinking what the person thinks? So many cases, it's like they come back to me surprised also. You know what? They said yes. I said, well, you are the one who is surprised. I'm not surprised at all. Right? So for me, yes or no is fine, but I want it to come from the other person. I don't want to say no to myself. That's kind of the thing. So make your work stand out in the world. I mean, only you can do that after going through all this. We good on time still? A couple more minutes?
10 till.
Okay. So how can you use my help if you really are wanting to change and be an entrepreneur wherever you are? Start with the book. That's a great place. This recording, we're going to be sharing it outside. So listen to it. And if you have any questions, just reach out. I have my information later on. Right. And if you are in a position where you may have an opportunity to do something at a much higher level, but there are some barriers to it, or you don't know if you should interview for that or move to the next level and stuff, approach for coaching, we can always talk how we can help you there. All those things. But if you do read the book and you like it, feel free to talk to your colleagues, whoever it is, or just spread the message for entrepreneurship. I think we need more people to start working as entrepreneurs. This is something I had in the book. I thought I'll kind of put it in for those who work with the fire within. Work is the reward. Everything else is bonus. So I wish you all the best in your entrepreneurship journey. My last slide is the connections and everything is there, contact information. I did start writing about a lot of these in detail. There's a newsletter on LinkedIn if you're interested in following. The bit.ly link here, Datapreneurs Daily Newsletter. And then if you do want my help with your career, or if you want to talk to my team, the information is all in there for your projects. Thank you so much for the opportunity. If there are any more questions, otherwise I'll hand out the mic to.
So you mentioned mentors a couple times,
Yeah.
right? And I've had some that have been extremely helpful. Can you talk a little bit, because people will go, oh, they're cool, or they're vice president or whatever. Talk a little bit about, sort of mentors. Sorry. Can you talk a little bit about like mentor selectionship criteria, right? How you would interact with that person, right? Sort of talk about how do you do that well, right? Because a lot of people are like, oh, Alan's cool, so I want him to be my mentor, but he may not be the best fit for whatever reason. So talk a little bit about that.
Great question. So repeating for the people on the thing, how do you find mentors, and is it their coolness, right? No, it's not. It's not even their titles, right? So depending on where you are, who can get you to that next level, right? So what happens is if you're currently as an architect type of a thing and you want to go and try to talk to a CIO as a mentor, what they do on a day-to-day basis, they might have gone through the thing, right? At a higher level, yes, I can give you 2 or 3 points to how to shape your career and go away, but it's very superficial. It's nice to hear. The cool factor is there, hearing from the CIO and advice, but beyond that, it is not much of use, right? So when you build mentorship, it's go in levels. Somebody who is being just where you are, right? Maybe 2 levels above you, that is a good level. Just don't go to the CIO directly and this thing, right? It doesn't work. The other thing is, even how do I select? That is the second part of the question, right? So you may have very many options. And the first thing is mentorship takes time from both sides. The understanding has to be there, right? So if I'm going to take your time, it's not just about coming and asking favors, okay, can you introduce me to this person or give your feedback and things. What can I do for you, right? And the do is not that you're doing the work that your department is going to be doing, not that, right? The do is maybe, hey, this is something I have been working on is there a possibility for it to add leverage to your team, right? They may see it, and I've had cases where, you know what, hey, this is exactly, we are starting a project around something similar. Why don't you talk to this person in my team, right? So that one extra meeting is not going to do anything because you're getting a lot of value from the mentorship, right? And the second thing it also does is each interaction, the mentor is also mentally forming opinion about you. You know what, this is a rising talent. I got to put this person in my thing because when my moves happen in my career, I can actually use this and bring this person in because I like the interest, I like the attitude, I like the way she is kind of doing the homework and all those things comes in. So thank you. Any other questions? People online?
Go ahead, tell them
No,
your
I'm
laptop
good,
stuff.
thanks.
Sorry? Okay. Thank you, everybody. This was great. Catch you.